the Browns have drafted linebacker Nathaniel Watson out of Mississippi State. And I'm going to tell you everything there is to know about the newest member of the Cleveland Browns. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you do not miss a thing for the entirety of the NFL draft. But let's get to know Nathaniel Watson. First, a physical makeup standpoint. He is 6'2", 233 pounds, and he's actually Andrew Berry's oldest draft pick, I believe. He will turn 24 years old before NFL Week 1, and we know that Berry likes them a little bit on the younger side, but in a draft like this where so few underclassmen enter the draft because of the incentive to stay in college football due to NIL and the transfer portal, beggars can't be choosers, and Andrew Berry, his last 2 draft picks, have been on the older side. Now, here's the scouting report that our NFL draft expert Tom Downey put up. I'll let you guys read that. I'll also throw some different information your way. He was a 3-year starter at Mississippi State, an absolute tackling machine. Look what he did his last year in Starkville. 137 tackles, 10 sacks, 3 pass breakups, 1 interception. So why is a 3-year starter who had 376 career tackles, first team All-SEC, led the SEC in sacks and tackles last year, along with Dallas Turner at 10, falling to round 6? I don't want to be a rain cloud on his special day, but it is worth noting that there have been a lot of question marks about Watson off the field. He's got a decent rap sheet. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but there has been some arrests throughout his career, and hopefully those immature and childish and just poor decision-making skills are behind him. And that's a reason why he likely slipped in the draft process. And with good leadership in Cleveland, hopefully they can get Watson on the right track and he no longer finds himself getting into trouble off the field. Now, here's what Dane Brugler from The Athletic had to say. Watson's average agility and erratic instincts lead to inconsistencies, but he has size, quick reaction speed, and tackling skills to fill up the stat sheet. He will need to shine on special teams to lock up a backup role for an NFL defense. I think Watson going to the Browns is probably as good of a spot he could go to when it comes to having an opportunity to really battle for a starting linebacker gig. We know JOK and Jordan Hicks have 2 of the 3 jobs locked up. Devin Bush is penciled in, but that's all, penciled in. So I think Watson will have a decent opportunity along with some other guys like Tony Fields and Diabate to really challenge Devin Bush for that 3rd starting linebacker role. But Watson, I think there's a lot to like, but there's some things to be concerned about when it comes to his sideline-to-sideline agility and quickness. But if you want a guy that can make tackles, he's your man. I mean, for example, I've got written down here, he had 21 tackles in a game back in 2023. That is the most by any player in the SEC in the last 5 years. So the Browns definitely have a lot of athleticism, like JOK at the linebacker position. Now they go get a guy who was a 3-year middle linebacker for Mississippi State, and maybe if he just grinds his way on special teams for a season or 2, he can take over that middle linebacker role from Jordan Hicks down the line. Now, make sure to subscribe to the channel like I mentioned earlier. I'll be dropping my entire 7-round draft grades video for the Browns. It's a tradition unlike any other, where we make way too early and premature grades because at the end of the day, we're all searching for it and we're all suckers for it. Now, back to Watson here. Some other stuff I've got written down on him. He ran a 4.63 40-yard dash. For being 233 pounds, it's not like that's the greatest size-to-speed ratio we've ever seen, but there's definitely some good athleticism to his game. Now, he's on the older side, like I mentioned earlier. He'll turn 24 years old before the end before we get to even week 1, but like I mentioned, there's just not a lot of really young guys in this draft, and if Andrew Berry had his way, he probably would have tried to trade out of this pick, but no one's really calling to move up in a draft class that saw a severe dip in draft prospect rankings following round 4. Now, I've got more to share on Watson and the Browns draft altogether, so don't go anywhere. But really quickly, our sponsor today, Game Time, continues to roll out an incredible deal for the Dog Pound. Now, I'll tell you about that deal in a half second, but first, Game Time is the best place to get seats at the lowest price guaranteed. So if you want to go catch a playoff Cavs game as that series is tied up at 2 apiece, or you want to go see a Guardians game, or you want to see a concert, or really anything else in your local area that needs a ticket, Game Time is your new best friend. And when you download the Game Time app, you can get $20 off your first purchase with code CHATSPORTS. I've already put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. But Game Time is a last-minute person's paradise. They've got tickets and deals up to the start of the event and even an hour after it kicks off. So download the Game Time app today. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. And when you do that, you're going to save yourself maybe some money that you would spend on parking or the concession stands. So download Game Time today. Use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Back to the Nathaniel Watson selection, and then we'll look at all 4 picks the Browns have made so far, as they currently have 2 more selections to be made in round number 7 of the draft. Other notes I've got on him when it comes to his strengths, I said earlier, really good height, weight, and speed. Initial burst is definitely there. I really do like the productivity, and I love the availability. Started 35 straight games for Mississippi State. So if you've got a friend that's a fan of the Bulldogs, Watson's been a staple of this defense for 3 straight seasons. And in the SEC, it's not easy to earn a starting gig like that early on in your collegiate career like he did. But he did spend 2 years, one as a redshirt and then one as a backup before he became pretty much a full-time starter. And the pandemic, of course, did not help. But all things considered, the guy played 6 seasons of college football. So Jim Schwartz is not going to look at this as some raw product. They're going to look to take that production he had at Mississippi State and insert that right into their starting lineup maybe or on special teams. And as long as he can just not step on his own dick and not get in his own way with the off-the-field issues he had at Mississippi State and even before he got to college, then I think this could be a pick the Browns look back at and go, wow, like a DPJ quality 6-rounder. The Browns got a really good linebacker in round 6 when I thought they may target linebacker earlier in the draft given their need, which they didn't have many, but linebacker was one of them. Ultimately, they stuck to their board. They didn't reach on a linebacker that they felt would be going too early for them. And you can see they went Mike Hall, Ohio State defensive tackle, early in the draft process in round number 2 at pick 54. Then they go with Michigan offensive guard Zak Zinter, just a bully. I think that's the best way to summarize him. Just not someone you want to be on the receiving end of a block from. Then they go Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash. I think he's your like Malachi Corley, for all my draft nerds out there, light. He's going to be really good after the catch. He just doesn't have the same size as Corley does, so he's not going to be able to run through as many tackles. But if there was one thing missing from this Browns wide receiver room, it was a yak kind of guy, right? So I could see Thrash kind of slotting in as a backup to Jerry Jeudy. And now most recently, they go with Mississippi State linebacker Nathaniel Watson at pick 206. They also have 2 7th-round selections. We'll see if the Browns stay put in round 7. We know Andrew Berry is not a huge fan of picking in round 7, so I don't know who's going to be calling to get to the end of round number 7. But if a team does, wouldn't put it past Andrew Berry to take that trade and maybe get a draft pick for sometime in the future. But the latest draft picks here, Nathaniel Watson following Mike Hall, Zak Zinter, and Jamari Thrash. So make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're going to keep you guys up to speed on every single move the Browns make in the NFL draft. Your home for the best wall-to-wall, pick-by-pick analysis for all things Cleveland Browns. Appreciate everyone for rocking and rolling with us throughout the entire draft weekend. I know we're hitting the slowdown period, but that's my favorite time because everyone else, they kind of check out at this stage. We're not checking out anywhere. No. We've got draft grades. We've got UDFAs coming your way tomorrow. So a lot of fun stuff on the horizon here at the Cleveland Browns Report, which is why you got to subscribe and turn on your notifications. So with that, I will let you guys get on out of here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in to our coverage today. If you haven't subscribed yet, you know the drill.